Okay, so homework assignments for this class are pretty self-explanatory, but I do want to provide a bit of personal insight into what I recommend you do, assuming you're someone who's getting into digital painting. My first recommendation is that you practice the topics in this class in the order that they are presented. So at first, that obviously means getting your hands on one or multiple pieces of the software. And if that includes Photoshop, remember, get the free demo first. Don't buy it yet. That way you can test it. Krita is free, as you know. And Procreate, you have to buy that, unfortunately, to use it, but it's only $9.99, so the risk isn't very great. Of course, with Procreate, you need an iPad, which is much more expensive. So I would only try Procreate if you already own the iPad. And you don't need an Apple Pencil to start either. Painting with your finger, it's a little more limited, but it still works just fine. You'll still be able to get a very good sense of what the software can do and how it interacts with your thought process. Okay, so in whatever software you choose, try dragging windows around, modify the interface. Get a feel for what windows are accessible with what menus. Get a sense for the variations on each window. For example, how the color picker can take multiple forms and display the information in multiple ways, as I showed you in the interface section of this class. Interact with those windows, resize them, dock them in weird places and undock them, and get a sense for how that software responds to your clicks. As I've hopefully demonstrated in this class, all three softwares, and even more that I haven't shown here, are very comparable in terms of what they can do. So often, what your software choice will boil down to is how the UI feels, how the user interface feels. You don't have to worry about being limited technically. The software is all good enough these days for your artistic ability to be the main driver. So set aside some time, brew a cup of coffee, and get a sense for what the interface on various apps feels like. Okay, idea number 2, open a new canvas, just accept the default values of that new canvas, and play with some tools. I would start with the brush tool and just make a few marks, pick colors, pick different brushes that you see by default on your screen. Every software will have their own brushes preloaded, as we looked at. In Photoshop, I had a lot of my brushes in there, because it's actually kind of a pain in the neck to uninstall brushes in Photoshop, going back to the defaults and then reloading your own. So while your brush window in Photoshop will look a bit different than mine, you'll still have a lot of brushes there to use, including of course the brush pack I provided with the class. And like I showed you, you could always go on Adobe's website and get those Kyle brushes. But pick different brushes, make brush strokes, make some selections, scale it, rotate them, flip them, apply a filter to them, feather them, warp them and skew them, all kinds of stuff. Then go ahead and apply that to different layers. Get a sense for what it feels like to make a new layer, knowing what layer you're on and painting, and then transforming that layer, maybe switching the layer mode. If you're new to this, especially if you're coming over from traditional media, this is where things will really feel alien to you. Also, just the sense of using a tablet. I remember when I first started, it was such a disconnect for me to not look at my hand. You know, when you're drawing with a pencil or painting with a brush, a real brush, you can see what your hand is doing. But with a tablet, you're not looking at your hand, you're looking up at the screen. Unless you're using Procreate with the iPad or have a pen display. Then you get around this because you are literally drawing on the screen. But in my case, I have just a regular Wacom tablet as I showed you in the intro. There was an initial disconnect between where my hand was and where my eyes were. And it took me probably a week to get over that. And if you feel that way, don't worry, it becomes second nature pretty quickly, trust me. But, by the way, that's the whole point of this recommendation. Don't start painting yet, just start exploring without the added pressure of producing art. I think it'll make for a much more graceful entry into the medium of digital. So yeah, build up those abstract canvases with random brushstrokes, different textures. You will inevitably discover things that you probably wouldn't have gotten to if it was your goal to paint something. Alright, once you feel you have satisfied that part of the assignment, now you can get into painting stuff. I recommend starting simple. Choose something that you're already good at painting. Maybe it's a portrait or a character or a cartoon or whatever it is. Pick the thing you can do most easily and go ahead and try and paint it. And when I say paint it, I mean draw it or sketch it or paint it, apply your existing art skills to create it in the digital medium. You will for sure find things you like and you'll find things that you can't do very well yet. And I don't mean in terms of your art ability. Even if you're an expert level artist, you will find things that don't meet your expectations. Like maybe the brushwork doesn't quite look as good as it does when you're painting in oils. Or maybe certain things are way slower in digital. That will happen, and you have to identify those things and work them out. Those are like little kinks in a hose that you just have to locate and unravel so your creativity can flow. One big recommendation I have here is keep your canvas sizes low, something like 1200 pixels in the largest dimension or 1500 pixels. Don't try and create some huge 5000 pixel canvas because your brushes won't respond as well on that canvas. Remember, brushes for the most part are stamps that get repeated, and the bigger the canvas is, the more repetitions that brush will make. Therefore, the harder it will be to achieve good looking brushwork. A smaller canvas is much more friendly, and it's faster with your computer too. And yeah, feel free to paint the exact same things I'm painting in my demos. If you like my Procreate owl, go ahead and do the exact same character. And try and follow the exact same steps that I took. Now, my art process might not work for you. If you're someone who wants to do a more final line drawing, make sure you do that. Please don't conclude that the way I do it is the best or only way to do it. This is where you should really access the wide world of YouTube. Choose an artist you like and maybe they have some videos available and see how their process works. Chances are, after watching this class, you'll be able to understand what they're doing as far as using the software goes. All right, folks, I think we can wrap this up. I just want to say thank you for checking out this class. I really hope it helps ease your transition into digital art. And believe me when I tell you, it is tons of fun to work this way. You can use digital as a hobby, as a profession. I use it for both, and really use these tools to help you grow as an artist in ways that may have not been possible otherwise. So, I wish you all the best and happy creating.